Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier, though, I've had to sit on that one for a while because I was speaking to one of their managers recently. I think it was in Seattle. I'm like, come on, tell me, who's Dustin fighting? It was his manager. And he's like, okay, between us. I'm like, bro, I work for the UFC. You know, I can keep my mouth shut. And they said, yeah, Max Holloway. I was like, great fight. Great fight. Awesome. Main event, New Orleans. Dustin's backyard for the BMF belt. It's a rematch. Max Holloway Dustin Poirier won the first two. Shot of redemption for Max Holloway. But caveats here. Max Holloway made his UFC debut against Dustin Poirier. I think he was about 20 years old. Dustin Poirier was 23, 24. He'd grown into his body. He had the man strength. He had a bit more experience in the organization, more experience overall. And of course, Max Holloway paid the price. He lost via armbar in the first round. Then they rematched years later for the interim belt, have a much closer fight, but Dustin Poirier wins again by a decision. This time now, Dustin's last fight in his hometown. Dustin's at the end of his career. Wear and tear, losses accrue, confidence issues, perhaps. I'm not saying he does have that, but, you know, we're just fighters. We're human beings. Few surgeries along the way, wear and tear, as I say. And Max Holloway is the younger, fresher guy. So the advantage that Dustin had was that he was older and stronger. Now, that same advantage becomes the disadvantage. It's a crazy world we live in.
Yeah, and I think that's why it makes so much sense for those two. And I mean, Dustin was really clear that legends only is the only people that he wanted to be fighting. He mentioned on one interview, or maybe when he was on the desk for one of the recent pay-per-views, saying that he was also willing to do Justin Gaethje and get that fight back. But when they brought him, they said, no, it's Max Holloway. He said, well, I can't argue with that. I said, legends only. And it's a guy that he's got a history with. It would be Max's first fight in the UFC against Dustin, and it gets to be Dustin's last fight in the organization. And congratulations. I think Christine just sent me something that his wife had posted. I think they're having another baby.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, no, Dustin Poirier is a class act. It's going to be sad to see him gone. It really is. Couldn't be a bigger fan. Number one, the way that he fights. The way that he fights, it's always must-see TV. You know it's going to be a war. You know you're going to get to see a little bit of everything in terms of mixed martial arts, and just heart. He's always trying to finish fights. He's just been such a staple of the UFC for so long. It'll be a sad day to see him go, but that's the way it happens, right? You can't stick around there forever. I was talking about this last week. When you look at the rankings at lightweight, talking about this last week on a video that I did. The lightweight division, a lot of them are going to be retiring soon. Charles Oliveira, I think, is 36. Justin Gaethje, 36. Max Holloway, 33, I think, but a lot of fights.
A lot of fights, yeah.
Dustin Poirier, one more fight. Beneil Dariush, you know, he's getting on.
Towards the end, for sure.
36 years old. Michael Chandler, 97, you know. It's a joke, Michael. You know, he's sticking around. The new generation is coming through.
A changing of the guard for sure is happening in the lightweight division, which I'm sure a lot of the younger guys are pretty pumped about, right? Where you're going to see a lot of these OGs of the organization of that division start to either have their last fights or, you know, drop down in the division, even if they stay there in terms of talking about Michael Chandler, where they're not at the top anymore and they're starting to work their way down, which means they're very vulnerable and open for fights with these up and coming guys who are kind of on the rise. So, but that's the sport. That's the sport. That's what we're going to see these guys kind of get to take over and fight these legends of the game. They either retire or they've got to start taking on these hungry up and coming guys in the division. But lightweight, yeah, you're right. It is really stacked with that kind of guys have stuck around there because how good they are for so long in the division that eventually we're going to see some of them go away.
And that's just the way it works. All right, this episode is sponsored by Element, LMNT, and we love this in the Bisping household. We can't get enough of it. It tastes absolutely delicious. Yes, it's great for replenishing electrolytes, okay? It comes in a variety of different flavors like citrus salt, raspberry salt, mango chili, or you can mix chocolate salt into your morning coffee for a mean mocha. But the best thing is as I said, it tastes delicious. It has 0 sugars, zero artificial colors, and no other dodgy ingredients if you're trying to keep and maintain a low carb lifestyle. I'm telling you, this stuff is fantastic. It comes in ready-made cans. You can pop them out the fridge. They're delicious. They're fizzy. They're nice. Comes in little sachets. Everywhere I go, they're in my bag. It has enough sodium, potassium, and magnesium to move the needle. It has zero sugars or artificial colors, and it tastes absolutely fantastic. And by the way, Element have come up with a fantastic offer for us. Just go to drinkelement.com, drinklmnt.com/BYM to get a free sample pack with any drink mix purchase.